Voila, Nahid, it is yours.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Today is the fourth of a four-session series with Adam Quiney. We're just so excited. And thank you, Adam, again, so much for your generosity and offering to do a series with us so that we could really take our time with this material. And for those of you that maybe haven't been on every single one, or would like a refresher, what I would like to do is kind of go over what we've done in the series so far, and also start by sharing a little bit about Adam. So here is his bio. Adam is an executive leadership coach specializing in working with the smartest people in the room. He is a former software developer and attorney. And as that, Adam has learned the hard way about the costs that come from keeping your heart safe and chasing after external rewards to feel whole and complete. From love, Adam is connection, passion, presence, wit, and brilliance. From fear, he's awkward, robotic, apathetic, irrelevant, and arrogant. He's learned to embrace all these parts of himself and works with others to do the same in their own lives. Living with his beautiful wife and their two dogs, one of which is a cat, in Victoria, BC, he's a man on a mission to bring the world to a more inspired and fully expressed place. And Adam, I'm going to let you summarize where we are now and just take it from here.
Cool. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect. It's a good time for my music to start playing again. Let's just close that. Actually, bear with me. I'm just going to close everything that might start doing stuff right in this moment. So we'll close that, and we'll close this, and we will close that. Perfect. I'm glad I got to do that while we were recording. That's perfect. So we've been talking over the last 3 sessions, first a little bit about me and my journey as coach and all of that. And then we've started to move into what it means really to create a client, not what's the sales funnel or the tactics or the tricks, but like what is the actual act of creating a client? What does it entail? And the way I would word it is we're creating a different way of relating to the idea of creating a new client. And that way of relating to it is that we are deepening relationship with the client. We're connecting with them authentically as a starting point, and then starting to invite them into possibility and begin to serve them, and then shift into coaching them, proposing to them, and then finishing by actually supporting them to get to a yes or a no. Both of those are important. So last week we kind of talked a little bit about how we create possibility in our conversations, and then spent the last half about how do we support someone to get to a yes. And from most of the feedback I saw, that's where we want to spend our time today, is going a little more deeply into that, and really finding a new way of relating to this opportunity that shows up when the client says, I'd really like to do this, but ... And whatever they say after ... is whatever their reason is for not doing things right now today. So before I go anywhere, I want to talk a little bit about the thing that's before this, which is the proposal. And before I go there, I'm going to talk about that. I really would like to do this, but ... And I want to relate that back to the ICF core competencies. Because one of the things that I've noticed as I've given these conversations for ICF chapters and other coaches is that there's this belief that creating a client is something separate from coaching. And I think that's tragic for a few reasons. I think it's tragic because as soon as we relate to them as separate, we're no longer looking at how we are being as we create a client through the lens of those core competencies. And so then we stop looking like, hey, am I trusting the client? Am I trusting myself? Am I creating trust and intimacy in this moment? Am I asking powerful questions? Am I speaking directly? We stop asking ourselves those questions, and we're like, well, this is a sales conversation and it's separate from the coaching conversation. And so we lose all of that juiciness that's available from those core competencies. And I think it's also tragic because it means that this kind of conversation gets stepped over a lot. And then we as coaches don't get to have the gift of creating prosperity, and the gift that brings not just ourselves, but our clients. Because if you are prosperous, if you are creating clients and you have not just and knowing that abundance is available, but also a created experience of abundance in your life, that means you're far less attached to your client showing up a certain way. It gives you way more freedom to be off the court with your client. And as we all know, that's the heart of magnificent coaching, is that we're not invested in the client. Whereas if we just have one client, they better create some breakthroughs and make some magic happen, because we really need them to be the model for our work. So part of what we're looking at when we talk about supporting the client when they get to that place where they're like, I'd love to do this, but some of the core competencies that are going to come into play are taking action. I think it might actually, I believe it's competency 8. I always get these two confused, 8 or 9. I think it might actually be 9, designing actions and supporting the client to do it now, to take the action today in this moment, rather than sometime off in the future. We've all had clients that are like that. Oh, this is so great. I'm going to have a huge insight. I'm really looking forward to putting in this practice. When? 3 weeks from tomorrow. And then it forever is 3 weeks from tomorrow, I'm going to put this into practice. So designing actions, asking competency number 6, asking powerful questions, and really, really, really competencies 4 and 3, which again, feel free to correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but I believe are establishing trust and intimacy with the client and our coaching presence, bringing the being of coach to this conversation, the conversation where we're supporting them with what's getting in the way. Number 9, thanks, Kevin. Yeah. So bringing the being of coach as opposed to the bringing of salesperson, or the being of what I would call friend. As friend, when someone says, yeah, I'd love to do this, but I'm like, great, don't want to disturb anything, don't want to rock the boat. I'm going to just honor that and move away from it, rather than staying with them intimately in the dance that comes from working with people and supporting them to overcome their fear. So just want to put that in because it gets stepped over so often. Now, before we get to, this is the point where we take a step back. I realized I really zigzagged you all, so thanks for being with me. So we talked about supporting the yes. Now we're going to go back to just talk a little bit about making a proposal. And we're going to come back to how do we work with someone when they've got something show up that's getting in the way. One of the places most people get caught early on, and indeed ongoingly, is the proposal. And the reason for that is that we're afraid to put people at choice. So part of our job is to put people at choice in their lives. And the way we do that is we ask a question that they can say yes or no to. So the way a lot of people make proposals to their clients, they do this in the invitation to a coaching conversation and also into the proposal, do you want to work with me, is they'll say things like, well, let me know if you ever want to have a conversation sometime. I'd be happy to do that. There's no putting someone at choice with that question. It's sort of like this loose, hanging, flappy invitation that they can kind of say yes to, but we're not actually willing to put them at choice. And so at the end of a coaching conversation where we've served someone, what we want to do is we want to make a proposal to them. We want to say, would you like more of this? Is this something you're interested in having more of in your life? Is this a support structure that you'd like to make a commitment to, or even know what that looks like? So there's no right question to ask here. What I want to draw attention to at this point is just that we need to put our clients at choice. We need to ask them a question that has them able to answer, yeah, I would like that, or no, I won't. Usually we avoid doing this because of our own fears. I don't want to ask them that because they might say no. And if they say no, that means that I'll never make it as a coach and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. They don't like me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is the very, well, one of many points. But as we move into the proposal, this is a place where we're setting aside ourself, our own stories about ourselves, our fears. We're willing to lean past those in service of our client, because we know in our heart that it serves people to be put to choice, as opposed to having a loop just hang open. Have any of you done that thing where someone's like, let me know sometime, and you're like, yeah, I'll totally do that. And then you don't, and then you just don't make eye contact with them for the rest of your life? Your phone becomes incredibly engaging anytime they're around. I would like a seat in the kitchen, please, rather than the dining room. I don't want to sit anywhere near, I might risk eye contact. So just because it's serving someone doesn't mean that it might not create discomfort. That's an important precept of service. I think that's the right word, is that in being willing and committed to serve people, there may be some discomfort. And as a coach, your commitment is that you are placing serving someone above your comfort and possibly above their comfort. This doesn't mean that you use their discomfort as a way of justifying everything you're doing. I'm shouting at them that they have to hire me. It's not my fault if they're uncomfortable. That's not serving someone. What I want to make clear is that if you are making serving someone your primary focus, then there will be times when they will be uncomfortable and certainly when you will be uncomfortable. Everyone clear on that? So the lesson here is not, great, I can do whatever I want and it's not on me, it's on them, I'm doing the work. It's more getting clear, kind of like, if my commitment is to play a game to win, I have to be willing to lose sometimes. So that's how we're setting this up. Time for some tea. So we have to make a proposal that people can say yes or no to. Sometimes you're going to feel like, wow, I feel like we're only partway there, and what would really serve this person is another conversation, and that's okay too. Propose that to them in a way that they can say yes or no to. Hey, Reggie, it really feels like we're partway there, but there's a little more conversation for us to have before we're even into a conversation about working together. Would you like to have another conversation? Again, we're giving that to them as a yes or no. Or we can check in with the client and say, hey, here's how it feels over here. You know, I'm feeling, this is us modeling trusting ourselves. I'm feeling like there's another conversation for us to have before we even talk about whether you want more of this. How do you feel about that? So we're offering what's going on for us. We're checking in with the client. We're trusting what the client brings forward. And then we can make an offer from that place. Great, so sounds like we're on the same page. Would you like to have another conversation? And so that's what we're modeling in terms of putting people at choice, really standing for them to get clear to a yes or no. And it's important to understand that we serve people by supporting them to get to a yes or a no. The no is often less comfortable for us, unless you're the sort of person where the no is more comfortable, can go either way. But when you support your client to get out of one of these loops that they have a million going on in their life, where they're like, oh yeah, I got to get back to that person. Oh yeah, that person, also that person. When we support people to get beyond that, to get to a clear, like, actually, I'm really clear, this isn't something I want right now. You are serving that person. So I'm going to start to shift now into a conversation about once we've made the proposal and what we start to do with the yes or no and how we work with that and how we support people with that. But I want to check in. Are there any questions about anything that we've laid on the line so far, or any disagreement or yeah buts or what ifs or anything along those lines? Okay, great. I notice we have a lot less people on camera today. So if you're here and you're not on camera out of shyness, please put yourself on camera. It's way more engaging for me to see your faces. And I see nods or I see head shakes. I'm like, oh, got it, this is landing or it's not. So you do me a service when you put yourself on camera. Hi there. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Okay, so then let's start to shift into what do we do? What do we do once we've made that proposal and people are like, yeah, I really want this, but there's something in the way. I really want this, but ... And I think what we're going to do is I want to hear from 3 people an objection you've gotten. I know we did this last time, and then we're going to try to work with some of these. So this is the part where I sit fairly quietly until 3 people have volunteered something that they've had come up with a client where the client's like, I'd love to do this, but. Yes, I see Janine and Gideon and Rachel. Did I see your hand up too? Great, so let's go with you first, Janine.
Okay, so I had a client who I'm trained on doing the energy leadership assessment.
Cool.
So after completing that, she was so excited, said she really wanted to work with me. And then I shared the package with her and she said, oh, I can't afford that. I'm unemployed and there's no way I could do that right now.
Got it.
And I didn't know what to say to that other than, well, I'm here when if you change your mind kind of thing.
Right. Let me scratch this needle across the record. And I've got a trombone over here to play too.
Yeah, it really did help.
May I ask what the package costs, just so I have some context? Would you be willing to share that?
I told her it was that to make any sort of lasting change, I like to work in a 3-month commitment. So it was $500 a month for 3 months.
Got it. So $1,500 total?
Yes.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Janine. I may come back to you or we may work with something else, but that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Let's hear from you, Gideon.
So I work with physicians, and after I go through the whole description, a lot of them say, "Well, that sounds really great, but I'm just not sure I have time for that in my life right now. I'm so busy."
Right. Shocking.
No, not really.
Not at all. Yeah. It sounds like that's a pretty common thing that they've got.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Okay. Great. Thank you. And Rachel. Am I saying your name right, by the way?
Who, Rachel? Yes, that's my name.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. My wife's named Rochelle and she always gets called the other one. So I wanted to make sure.
Oh, no, Rachel. Yes, thank you.
Great.
One of the objections that I've received several times is, I really, really want to do it. I just need to check with my spouse.
Uh-huh.
And so it's just really, sometimes it's true. And sometimes I think it's just a way for them to get out of it in a nice way.
Uh-huh. And do they ever go further in this conversation, like to get to I just need to check with my spouse because, like, is there more to it? Or is it just, I just need to check with my spouse and then you guys end the call and move on?
No, usually it's gotten to the point where whenever it comes to financial decisions, then we always, talk to each other about this. And this is an investment. And so I want to make sure, and which I understand. I do the same with my husband. I will talk to him about anything, but I will usually do that before I get on a call with somebody. But at the same time, then I understand it. I understand people wanting to do that, but
Right.
I think sometimes it's just a nice way of saying no. And, so it's just kind of, how do you handle that objection? Because you're not really sure which one it is.
Totally. Great. In fact, all of these. So here's the first thing that's important for all of us to get is that what you just said, Rachel, like where it's kind of true. And then it's also kind of like, maybe not true, but there's like something about it that allows them to escape, so to speak. I'm going to come back to that term because it's not that they're escaping from you. It's that it allows them to escape confronting their own fear, of which you are supporting them to do in this moment. So to be clear, we're not trying to hold someone on a hook. We're trying to support them in holding themselves on the hook. And so for each of these objections, and we could keep going and we'd get nuanced versions of this, but like these are all pretty common ones. It's too much. I don't have the time. I need to check with someone else, or, let me think about it, or let me come back to you in a month, whatever that variety is. And so for all of these, I think I talked a little bit about the notion of a context and how we create our world. But I'm going to do a quick review here today, which is that we have a set of beliefs about whatever we're talking about, a set of beliefs about our life or about work or about the way the world operates. And from those beliefs, we take actions that are in accordance with those beliefs. So if I believe that you have to work hard to make money, I might find a job that sort of has me work really hard and then rewards me for working really hard. Or if I conclude I don't want to work very hard, I might find a way to live a life that allows me to have everything I want without needing very much money, or anywhere along that spectrum. The point here is that we create actions that are consistent with those beliefs. Everything makes sense so far? Great. Then what happens is from those actions, we create a world around us that is reflective of the actions and the beliefs. So I'm naturally going to find myself in a career that rewards hard work with money. And then when I look around me at the world that I've created that surrounds me, I'm going to see proof that you have to work hard to make money. I'm going to see a bunch of people that work really hard to make money and that might do things like complain about how hard they have to work, but at least I have that awesome amount of money and I get to buy that boat that I really want and blah, 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 blah. Or I'm going to see people around me that aren't working very hard, but have found a way to create a life that they can be content with that doesn't require much money, et cetera, et cetera. So our beliefs guide our actions create a world around us that's a reflection of them. And then the final piece of this puzzle is that the world around us proves that our beliefs are true. Does this make sense to everyone? So if you say to someone like, well, you just having, like Gideon, if you were to say to this person, like, well, of course it sounds great, but of course you never have time, right? That's blah, 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 blah. They're going to point to like this career they've got, this life they've got, all of the demands on their time, because they've created a world that is in complete accordance with the beliefs that they started at. Can everyone see this? So it's valuable for us to get on one level, what they're sharing will always be true. And on the other level, it's something that's been created, made up. And if people want to create a different experience of their life, a different reality than the one they're currently in, it's going to be operating against this trifecta, this beliefs to actions to environment to beliefs to actions to environment to beliefs. So that's what we're up against. It's valuable for us to know, got it. Of course, there's something in the way. Of course, there's not enough time or not enough money, or you need to talk to your spouse or blah, 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 blah. Of course. That's where we want to start over here in our own being. We don't even have to say anything yet. We just want to really get in our world like, yeah, that makes sense that there's not enough time. What would you say, Gideon, the people you are in this conversation with really want from life?
Believe it or not, they want more time.
Weird.
Yeah.
And are there things that they want with more time?
Yeah, more time with their family, more time for themselves.
Uh-huh. And is there anything like any particular experiences or something they'd want from more time with themselves and their family?
Well, they all talk about work-life balance. I think they
Right.
just don't want to be consumed by work the way they are.
Uh-huh.
And they somehow believe, just like I did when I was practicing, that that's necessary.
Right. Yeah, my background was law, as I think I've shared before on these calls, and lawyers all want more time management. Like, if I could just manage my time better. These people manage their time down to 1/10 of an hour. Every 6-minute block, their time is managed. No one manages that's insane. That's what crazy people do. And so this is the irony for everyone, is that the very thing we're wanting is also simultaneously the thing that we're doubling down on that's not getting us what we want. The strategy we're using is failing, and it's the thing in the way of what would actually set us free. Can everyone see this? Like, so whatever your client brings that's in the way is going to be an example of the thing that's in the way of what they want in the larger scope of their life. Is there anyone that has not followed me so far that I've kind of lost in that last little bit? Anyone that wants a clarification?
The last little bit.
I was going to say, can you repeat it, please? I think it'll sink in the second time.
Excellent. Yeah. And Rachel, what did you have? Just want to make sure I've got everyone.
Well, I was just thinking, if that's what's getting in their way and they're saying it's their relationship with their spouse, I'm not quite sure how that would be getting in the way of like what it is that they're wanting.
Yes, we're going to come to the relationship with a spouse because it's sort of like a little bit a couple orders removed, whereas time or money in the way is just so much more clear. So we will come to that.
Okay.
These are just like, right. So these people have a scarcity of time, and it's like, I want more work-life balance. I want to have more time with myself, more time with my family. I don't want to be so consumed with work, presumably because there's something they do want. And the reason they can't have any of that stuff is because they don't have enough time for it. Everyone following that? And so that's just a great model for the thing in the way of what they say they want in their life is also going to be the thing that gets in the way of them saying yes to you. It's the thing that gets in the way. If we were to look at Janine, you were talking about like, oh, I so want that, but the package is $1,500 and I'm unemployed and there's no way I can do that right now. Have you had people where money got in the way where they weren't employed? Where they weren't unemployed?
Well, I guess I kind of was able to get over that example quickly because I had a similar conversation the same week with a different client, said the same thing. She wasn't, her husband was a retired fireman. She
Yeah.
said, there's no way I could afford that. And then that night she called and said she talked to her husband and they were going to make it work.
Okay.
So it was like a good lesson for me of, okay, I got to just stick with my package. And this is about the other person, not about me. But where
Yep.
I stuck is like, well, what we're doing right now. How do you get
Yes.
that conversation?
Perfect. Okay, great. Yeah. So there will always be some people that will naturally work themselves out. Those people are awesome because they require less support from us. And there's going to be some people where they're going to need some support to get over the hump of their fear. It's important to note that our fear rarely looks like, I'm really scared and I'm shivering in the corner. It looks like not having enough time. It looks like not having enough money. It looks like needing to go and talk to someone so that we don't have to make the decision on ourselves, on our own, and possibly screw it up and make a mistake. So we'll go talk to that person, and that will alleviate the fears that I have. So underneath all of this, we're actually supporting the client to confront their fear. Again, we don't have to talk about any of this with them. I just want all of you to get internally that that's what we're up to. We're not trying to sell them something. We're not trying to like hook them into our package. We're not trying to use some kind of spin selling technique to help them see the pain and help them block all of that stuff. No, what we're trying to see here is internally really getting, what's going on is my client's fear is showing up here. And it's the same fear that shows up everywhere else in their life. I'm just going to read what you wrote here, Jackie. So what you were saying is the client's objection to our coaching proposal is the same as what is restricting them in other areas of their life. That is exactly what I am saying. Exactly what I'm saying. And maybe not every single area of their life, because there will always be an exception if we want to find one. But by and large, whatever is stopping someone from creating the life they want is going to stop them from saying yes to you, because working with you is part of the life they want. So let me just get my train of thought here. So this can be frustrating for us as coaches, because we're like, you say you want more time, and yet you're complaining about not having enough time, which is the thing in the way of supporting you to have more time. That's crazy. We're all crazy. This is the same thing all of us are doing, each one of us, myself included. We're like doing the thing that we're simultaneously complaining about. And so when we get met with an objection like this, so the person says, let me take one step back. Someone says, I would love to, let's imagine that you make a proposal and people say, yeah, I'm not really interested in this. Your job is to graciously, as best you can, say, awesome, thank you so much for your time. Let me know if I can ever support you. And anything you need to be complete with the call? No? Awesome. Let me know if I can ever support you, and wrap up the call. So we are not in the business of pushing people beyond their no. If people are clear that they're a no, your job's done. Very simple. It's when people are like, I really want this. I really see the possibility in this. And yet, yes, but. So these are the steps now. We're going to talk about what we do to move through that. So the first thing that we do is we want to really get we just want to understand the objection, what's in the way. So for Gideon's people, it'd be like, okay, got it. There's some time. It sounds like you're worried you don't have enough time. Do I have that more or less right? You'd be like, yeah, totally. I don't think I have enough time. And then what we want to do is we want to get permission to support them. So the way we do that is we don't hide anything. We just say, great, that makes total sense. Would you like some support with that? I hear that there's something you want, just happens to be this work, and there's a thing in the way. Would you like some support with that? I'd love to hear from one person a question you imagine the client is then going to bring when you ask that.
Well, how could you possibly help me with that? I don't know.
Great question. Can any of you imagine them saying something like that? Great. Right. So how would you support me with that? What do you mean? Like just find money lying around or something like that? And our answer is basically, well, What we do in coaching is we support you to see what's possible in your life and what you want. Then we have you see what's in the way of that, and we support you to move that thing out of the way so that you don't have to wait another 4 years, or you don't have to put it off until you have more money, or until your room's clean, or until life gets more manageable. We support you to create what you want today, rather than continuing to have it delayed for whatever it is that keeps having it delayed. And so it sounds like there's some flavor of that showing up right here. Would you like to take a look at that? And if people get a little squirrely about it, you can even go as far as saying, why don't we do this? Why don't we take working together completely off the table? And let's just take a look at what's showing up. We'll have a conversation right now, or next week, or 2 weeks from now, where we look at what seems to be getting in the way, not so that we can make you hire me or get into a coaching relationship, but so we can support you to start to see how this thing showing up here might actually be the same problem showing up everywhere, and start to do the work to move it out of the way today, rather than after you've made a scary investment or anything like that. I'm going to walk through these slowly because people often have some objections or concerns at this point. So anyone have a question or a yeah, but that shows up there? Yes, Kevin.
So my yeah, but is that for me, in my experience, my short experience so far, 75 to 80% of the people that say, I need to think about it, end up coming back and eventually buying without me following up with them or having to do any of that. So I guess that's where I'm like, well, like why bother putting in the extra effort of bringing them around if eventually they're going to come around if I just let them think about it.
Yeah. What do you think my answer is going to be? I'm just curious.
I have no idea.
Okay. So my answer is don't. If that's working for you, you don't have to do this, right? Like if you're finding that people are 75 to 80% of the time going away and then coming back, it sounds like most of the people that you're inevitably, naturally, innately drawing to you are people that are reliable to have this show up, but then for it not to stop them. Now, there may come a point where you start to charge a higher rate or have a longer commitment or demand more of your clients investing in their own lives. Doesn't have to be money, but just putting more of themselves into their lives, which will then drive more of their fear up, at which point your numbers, your percentages might fall, at which point you may have to start to support them this way. But if it's working for you right now, no worries. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that leads me to think something as you kind of talk through that is if it is as high as it is that an indication that I might not be charging enough?
You get to decide that. So there possibly, there's the way I relate to my rates is that it creates a bar where the client has to confront something before they start to work with me. If I charge people $20 for a year of work, there's not much confronting in their own lives that they have to do for that. You don't have to relate to your rates the way I do. Your rates could be like, my rates are purely about me putting ramen on the table, in which case, great, do whatever. So I want to be clear, there's no right way to relate to it. But if you're relating to it a little bit along the lines of the way I would, then perhaps, yeah, you might want to raise your rates to call people into something higher in their lives. Great question. Thank you. Jackie, you say it sounds like offering to coach them for free. That's precisely what we're doing. We're offering to serve them before we're in a coaching relationship with them, not for the rest of their lives, just right now. So what we're doing is we're modeling service to the client. And this is presumably what most of you will have done before you even propose. Usually the way as coaches that we create our business is we connect with people, we create some possibility, we invite them into a coaching conversation and like, hey, would you like to get an experience of this? Coaching is like chocolate. Talking about chocolate's the most boring thing in the world, except for weird people that like talking about it. I put chocolate on your tongue, you immediately know what chocolate's about. You understand it, you get if you like it. Dark chocolate, gross. White chocolate, what is that? You immediately get it. So why don't we have an experience of coaching? So all we're doing is in a way where, again, instead of making these discrete steps where it's like I've coached them for free once already, now I'm all about the proposal, we're dancing with the client. So we're serving them, helping them see something. And when they get scared, we come back to helping them a little bit. And then we put them back at choice. And we're helping them slowly move into overcoming their fear as a dance. Does that answer your question, Jackie? Okay, awesome. So would you like some support with that? You can always, if they're worried, like, well, I don't know about, I really don't know if I can do this. Great, let's take this off the table. Let's not worry about working together. Let's just use it as a way of looking at what shows up and how it tends to get in your life. So for your people, Gideon, be like, got it, you don't have any time. Well, do you want to have a conversation about that, about time getting in the way? It would possibly make this possible for you. And I also imagine that it sounds like that's getting in the way everywhere. So if we can do a bit of work around that right here today or next week or whenever, I imagine that's going to serve you everywhere in your life, even if you never work with me again. Would you like that? Everyone following along? So we're bringing what's showing up onto the table and offering them some support around it. And then what we want to do, so if they say no to that, our job is done. Awesome, no worries. Let me know if you'd ever like another conversation. I'd love to check in with you in 6 weeks' time, see how you're doing, whatever you want to say. But the job is to, again, honor the no. We receive the energy of the no. We're not forcing anyone to do anything. And if they say, yeah, I'd love that, sure. Or yeah, okay, let's see. Great. Now we're dancing with them to the next step. So in the next step, what we want to support them in doing is seeing that trifecta we talked about. How their beliefs create their actions, which makes a world around them that reinforces their beliefs. So there's 3 sets of inquiries that we work with them in this. The first is we want to ask them about whatever beliefs they have around this particular thing. So we might, if we were working with time, actually, Gideon, what would you say are some questions we could ask these physicians that would draw out their relationship to time?
Well, you could ask them very simply, what is it that is standing in the way of them having time to do what they want to do?
Great. Okay. And give me one more.
If you had the time, how would you like to spend it?
Great. Okay. So those are questions that kind of, they speak to like the possibility if we resolve time. What we want to do is ask questions that speak about their relationship to the thing. Mm-hmm. So your answers are great. That's not to make you wrong. Just to redirect where we're asking is more along the lines of, tell me what is true for you about time. For example, how do you experience time? Tell me the story about time. Fill in 4 answers to this. Time is blank. So in this moment, I want to hear from 3 people. Tell me what time is for you. Tell me part of your relationship to time.
I can share.
LOL.
Someone will go. Yeah.
Time feels like it flies by. The days are short and the weeks are long.
Great. Days are short, weeks are long. Got it. So time is like fleeting. Is that kind of more or less the idea?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, great. Let's get another one.
Time is precious.
Yes, I have that one too. Time is very precious. Do not waste time. Okay, great. Thank you, Kristen. One more.
Time seems to be going faster as I get older.
There's less and less
Very
of it
weird.
as time goes on. Yeah, what's going on with that? Great. So we want to draw out like at least 10 truths about this thing called time. So as a coach, we're always working with people at multiple angles. So people might be like, well, time's precious, time is fleeting. Great. Tell me about people with a lot of time. They're lazy. Okay, great. Tell me about people that are really busy. They're very productive. We're just looking at how are some ways we can get at the way they relate to this notion of time. Is everyone clear we can do the exact same thing with money? Is there anyone that's like, I don't see how those would connect, Adam? Great. So it'd be the same thing. Tell me about money. What does money mean? What's the story that you were raised on as far as money is concerned? People with a lot of money are cheaters, thieves. People without a lot of money are noble, honorable. I'm not saying these as truths. These are beliefs someone could have. People could also be like, people without much money are lazy. People with a lot of money are productive and care about society. The point is not having the right belief. It's that we really want to get clear on like, what is the worldview this person has about this particular thing showing up in their life? So we get ideally aim for about 10 beliefs, support them in getting clear on 10 beliefs. Next, we want to get clear on the actions they take as a result of these beliefs. Given that for you, Kristen, time is precious, what is one action you take?
Make it a point to spend as much valuable. So when I have competing priorities, what's more important? Time with family. This is actually happening just now, like today in an hour. I had a lunch scheduled with my nephew, and I was so tempted to cancel it last minute because I just learned of a new like coaching webinar that's coming up. And I was like, no, I have to have lunch with my nephew because it doesn't happen often. It's like once a month. And so I'm choosing family and loved ones over work and career and that sort of thing. And I think the main reason why is when you lose a loved one recently, it really shifts perspective. And that's the case for me. I just lost my mom about a month ago, and I just want to spend time with family.
Got it. I'm really sorry to hear that. And thanks for sharing that so openly and with so much truth. Got it. So time is precious, and it sounds like part of what you do from that, notwithstanding extenuating circumstances, is prioritize spending time with family. That be fair? Okay, great. Gideon, what's something your doctors, your physicians do, or perhaps that you learn to do, given that time is scarce? You're muted, by the way.
And I just unmuted myself. That's a good question. I used to basically spend a lot of time at work.
Got it.
That was my priority.
Got it. Yeah. You've got an impact to make. You're one of the few people that can make that particular impact, and time is fleeting. So put in those hours, work, get it done. Here's some other things that I learned to do from my own story that time was scarce. I learned to manage the crap out of my time, incredibly efficient. I learned to fill my days with stuff. There was no empty spaces because that is a waste of time. I related to empty spaces as a waste of time. Let's get one more here. What's one more thing I did? Oh, I would try to maximize everything I was doing. So before I'd gotten into coaching, I was sort of learning, I was at law school. I was simultaneously trying to learn how to become a lawyer, run a consulting business from software, be a tournament squash player, be the best at a video game that I was playing, try to coach people on stuff, and like be a good husband, 5 other things that I was trying to maximize myself at. And I'm not talking about like just a hobby, like, oh, I spend a half hour doing that and it's fun. I'm talking about like, I got to spend an hour and a half playing Virtua Fighter, then writing a blog post about the strategy you must do to defeat your opponents, blah, 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 blah. So I tried to cram as much as I could into time because time is scarce. And so I have to fill it so I don't waste any of it. What do you imagine was the kind of experience that left me in where time was concerned? Someone's got to say it.
You probably still felt like you were totally short of time.
Holy fuck, was I ever? I was just cramming my time, right? There was never a space for anything. So can everyone see that? The beliefs I had led to these actions, which then created an experience, a world, an environment that was like, yeah, time is scarce, because that was the life that I was living. I had created the very thing that my actions were designed to kind of somehow mitigate for or manage or work with. And yet, that's interesting. I've created the scarcity around time that I was trying to fix. Can everyone see the perfection of this? So this is happening for all of us. This is the way it is for money. And so what are the beliefs? What are the actions? Get like 10 things they do as a result, either to mitigate or manage for, or to deal with the problem that this is how the thing occurs. And then finally, we want to look at like, what's the experience of life that they're left in? What is it like for you living based on these first two things? What is impossible? What can never show up in your world by virtue of these first two lists? And what we're doing is supporting people to see this cycle that they're in that completes itself. It's the snake eating its own tail. I want to check in and see if anyone has any yeah buts, thoughts, something they want to share before I go further. Okay, great. I won't be able to read any. Oh, did someone just come off mute?
I did. I was just going to
Great.
ask, like, if, if you've already had like a little bit of a session with them, like I'll call it a discovery session. You've already had some
Yeah.
sort of coaching talk, and then you're now at this point, and, now you're going to restart kind of, digging into another coaching session. With your experience, have you found it's better to separate, like do it on another day because this might take too long, or like
There's no rule.
Mhm.
There's no rule about this, but if you've just finished, for most people who haven't got much ground under their feet as far as being coached is concerned, that first call, they're going to be like, whoa, that was a lot. And it requires some generative energy on their part. To be in a coach requires that of all of us. And so I'm always feeling the client. What do I feel over there? They feel kind of tired.
Mhm.
But we also don't want to let's talk. You want to ask the question, are you interested in this at the end of that conversation? Because they're enrolled in something. And enrollment is fleeting because our world actively pushes us back to that trifecta. And you've had this conversation to open up some possibility for them. So would you like some support with this? Do you want to work together? You get to that point. And if you're feeling this person feels pretty tired, great. Why don't we set up a conversation 1 week from now and we'll take a look at this.
Got it.
How does that
Okay.
sound? And then schedule it then, so that you're meeting them where they're at, but also cognizant that their fear is going to push them back to, my life's not that bad. I don't need this. Things are a bit crazy right now. I don't have the time, all of that stuff.
Got it. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Great question.
Okay, continue. This is awesome.
Great. So now what you've done with them is you've distinguished what I like to call the perfection of the world they've created. Of course, they don't have any time. Of course, now isn't the right time because there's no money. And once we've sort of drawn this out, we want to ask them, what do you notice in this? What are you seeing as we draw this out? And again, we're giving the reins back to the client, and some of them will be like, holy crap, there's never going to be money. I ensure that there isn't money. No wonder. They might need some support from you to start to see stuff. So you might reflect a little bit, like, you want to be gentle with this because we don't want to give our clients too much. We want them to generate the awareness. But you might say like, hey, what I notice is that all of the work to manage the scarcity of time seems to create an incredible scarcity of time for you. Are you like, does that how it occurs to you, or does it feel different? So they can start to see like, oh my goodness, this is all encompassing. Of course, this is showing up here. And then the last part is to check in with them. So what's predictable from here? If we just kept this cycle going, what will predictably happen as far as us working together? They might be like, well, Gideon, probably I'm going to keep waiting until there's more time. And it seems like, according to this thing, I'm never going to have enough time, because they won't, will they? The world they're creating is one where there's not enough time. It's like when people say, I'm really committed to working with a coach next year, and that's the thing they say for the rest of their life. There's not a declaration like by October 31st, there's next year. And so next year comes and they're really committed to working with a coach next year. Not anything wrong with that. We're just intending to support them to step outside of the habitual pattern they're in. So we've got this trifecta, this belief into action into environment. We ask them, what's predictable from here? And then the last thing for us to do is just to check in. So do you want to create a breakthrough with this? And if they're like, no, actually, I really appreciate seeing this, but now is not the time. Thanks for helping me see this though, but I really am unemployed. Great, your job is to honor the no, take it as graciously as you can, thank them for their time, blah, 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 blah. And if they say, yeah, I really would like to do that, then the question becomes, great, what do you see there is to take on? What is there to do to step outside of this? And are you clear that more of the stuff inside of this is just going to lead to more of this? Yeah, great. So it's probably not going to be waiting until there's enough time, right? Maybe. Cool. What do you see there might be to take on? So we're not pushing them in any direction. We're just helping them see the forest that they're in, as opposed to trying to chop down that tree and hoping once I get that tree down, then I can do the thing. No, then you're one step further into the forest. Then you have another tree to chop down, and so on and so on and so on. So this is how we can work with money. This is how we can work with time. I've got just a little bit of time, and I want to talk to Rachel with the objection around checking in with spouse. Is that all right? Okay, great. Does the expression on your face, Rachel, say like, this is awesome, or I'm a little unsure of what's going on, or what? Tell me what it means. Okay, great. Oh, wow. Okay, good. Tone it down. Okay. So when people want to check in with their spouse, first of all, of course, like that makes sense. We would all want to do that, which makes it really easy for us to get on the court with them. Just like if I have a scarcity of time in my own life, it's really easy for me to get on the court when my client is like, well, time's in the way. And I'm like, boy, howdy, tell me about it. I got no time at all either. Makes sense. Remember, our job as coaches is to be off that court. So we just want to recognize, okay, there's a bit of a draw for me to just totally buy that. And instead, might there be a breakthrough for this person here? And so what we want to do when someone brings something like, I need to think about it, I need to check in with my spouse, basically like the potential for it just delaying things, is we want to honor that. Totally. Yes, absolutely. Check in with your spouse. That seems like a good idea. And may I support you a little bit right now? Well, what does that mean? Well, I just want to take a look with you and support you in seeing if there might be something that's showing up here that might also be getting in the way with the other stuff that you want to take on in your life. So we're approaching this the same way. And again, it's an invitation, not a you must do this. And if they do, then we would ask questions like, what is it that you're hoping to get from your spouse? What is it that you need to find out? And usually, most often, it's not really that people need to check in with their spouse. It's that there's something in here that they're afraid of that's in the way. And so what they do is they go to their spouse, or they go away for 2 weeks hold on. Let me separate those two out. Often people go to their spouse so as to ask permission, as opposed to going to their spouse from a clear commitment on their part and then seeing, can we make this work? So can everyone see that if the energy I bring to my spouse is like, hey, I'd like to do this thing, I'm not sure, versus, hey, I really want to do this thing and I'm really committed to it, but I want to find a way to make that work, that's going to create a different conversation, a different way things go. And so when people are bringing that conversation about their spouse, that's often where we want to invite them to look, not to make them do anything, but to support them. Like, before you go do that, I want to check in with you. What's true for you? Are you going to your spouse because you're kind of a no and you want to get validation of that? Or are you going to your spouse because you're kind of a yes and you're scared you can't do that? And I think we could really support you by getting clear on your own stand before you go to your spouse, so that you're clear on who you are being and then get to show up that way to them. And then, of course, there's the opportunity to work with them more, to support them in seeing how this is the thing they always do, if this is the thing they always do, where they don't really get clear on what they want. They go to their spouse to find out if it's okay, et cetera, et cetera. Is this making sense? I'm moving through this one a little bit faster. What questions does that leave you with, Rachel, or anyone else? Doesn't have to be related to this part. Great, so we've nailed it. The last thing about people going away and taking time is, again, very similar. We just want to find out, like, what are you hoping you'll get with time? What is it that with time you would need some clarity on that might really open things up for you? Because perhaps we could support you to get clear on that right now. And if we do that, you're going to become more efficient in your life. If every time there's a decision in front of you, you have to go away for 2 weeks, that's awesome. You're still going to create your life, but your life is perpetually taking 2 weeks longer than it needs to. And I'm hearing that you're up to some stuff that you don't want to keep pushing off 2 weeks. You want to make happen today. And so perhaps we could support you in getting clear before you go away. You can still have all the time you want. But if we support you right now to take a look at this and to really see what your heart wants, maybe that's going to speed everything in your life up. Can everyone see how we're always coming back to how this is a quality of being that this person brings everywhere into their life. And that's why we're interested in supporting it now. Not because we need them to be a yes, not because we need them to be a no. Okay. We've got 3 minutes left. I want to allow anyone to ask a question that's got a question, and then we'll have to wind down there. Awesome, Gideon. Thanks for your questions and thanks for being here.
So I don't have a question, but one of the things that we traditionally do at ICF as we get towards the end of our speaking engagements is we ask from the audience to share their gems, their most important takeaways from the session. And as we're getting close to the top of the hour, I would love for any of you who are willing to share what you have gotten from these 4 weeks with Adam. And I'll start since I'm off mute. You know, I really have taken to heart a lot of what Adam has shared, and I want to thank you so much for that, because I've been searching for a way to interact with prospects that has given me the feeling of integrity, because I've always sort of had this struggle where when I'm in that interaction with a prospect, I'm being manipulative, and then I try to guard against it, and it makes it really awkward, and it's just been horrible. And you know, I've been doing this for 20 years. So, but I really nailed why that is, and that is because I can't be in a relationship with someone and be manipulative. So what you've given is clarity around that, and I've had the luck to have someone that I was bringing on board sort of in the middle of this, and I was really able to practice and really connect and hone into what I noticed their fears and their concerns were. And I was able to say, it's really important to me that you're able to get these concerns addressed. And I think that that's what built the trust to bring the person on. So I just wanted to share that with you, Adam, and thank you for it. And anybody else who has something that they'd like to share with Adam that they're taking away today. It doesn't have to be a whole big story. It could just be a concept.
I just really appreciate the real life examples, especially with the handling of the objections when you're looking to finish, you know, and get that client on board, because the ones we just talked about today are the ones. I mean, let's be honest. And it is tough because you want to seem authentic and caring and trustworthy, and you don't want to be salesy. But it's true, we're getting at the heart of the matter. You know, we are here to coach the person, and we want to help them. So I think it was well said, the examples you had. I was writing furiously here on my paper to capture it, because I know I need to kind of rehearse those in my head to kind of get it down, just because we have to anticipate that's what's going to happen, especially now with more and more people not working and not having a source of income. It's a real pain point.
100%. Thank you.
Well, I want to share, Adam, that first of all, thank you so much from the get-go being a yes. I really, really appreciate that. And as I had shared on our first call, Adam is pretty much the reason why I said yes to coaching and do my coach training program. It was very uncomfortable, but I did it. So thank you. And I really appreciate, I mean, thank goodness this, like all of them have been recorded, but that I get to go back and rewatch these. I mean, Kristen, I have 5 pages of notes today. So incredible. And, you know, one of my biggest gems today was, you know, I had, you know, handle the objection and coach them through it. That was all I kept hearing. I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to coach them through it. But you breaking it down, that trifecta, the step by step like, oh my God, it's easy now. It's like, I can see clearly, right? And it gave me a real access to, for me, a point where I couldn't get over that hump. And that's where I would get a lot of fear. So I so appreciate you. You're real inspiration. Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Yeah. Adam, I want to thank you too. And, thank all of you for being with us today. I want to honor everybody's time, but, please feel free to follow up with Adam. I did. I went into LinkedIn and I connected with him, and I'm going to be writing him a big endorsement for everything that he's done today. And, I just want to thank you again for being willing to spend 4 hours of your time with us as coaches. We just so appreciate it. And thanks.
I would love to just say thank you to everyone for being here, and I'll be quick, but this stuff is so much more engaging when it's co-created, and each of you has contributed to co-creating this. So thanks, the energy that we're all feeling is a function of how all of you have shown up. So I'm really grateful for that. Please connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I post a lot of my art on Facebook. And so that's just a great place for us to connect. And I'd love to hear from everyone.
Excellent. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. And we have another session this week, Thursday night. Alexia Vernon, she's going to be sharing how you can be a speaker via Zoom, doing what Adam just did. And I did it this morning. And she's going to give us a lot of tips on how to be engaging when you're on a Zoom call. So that'll be this Thursday. There's still time to sign up. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. We'll see you again.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Adam.